shed our spotlight on the local dailies today and the stories that they are leading with. And we start, of course, as always, with the #1 newspaper in the country and in the region. That is the Daily Nation from here at the Nation Media Group. And the Daily Nation today starts with a story that says, more pain. Of course, this story is related to taxation, some proposed new taxes that have been proposed by, or are proposed in documents seen by the Daily Nation. I will tell you exactly which document it is in the Treasury's medium-term revenue strategy 2023-2024 to 2026-2027. I repeat that these are proposals in the Treasury's medium-term revenue strategy 2023-2024 to 2026-2027, and an analysis of that particular strategy will show you that there is more pain that is to come, and that is what the Daily Nation has put as its headline, as Treasury proposes new higher taxes. Just to give you a brief understanding of what exactly this means is that the VAT we might see a rise in the VAT from 16% to 18% if that proposal again is adopted. 18% proposed new VAT if Kenya adopts East African countries' rate, because remember, the government seeks to harmonize, or rather there is that call to have or to harmonize it's actually under the EAC Common Market Protocol that provides the harmonization of taxes before the EAC Monetary Union. And if we harmonize according to that Common Market Protocol, then our VAT, currently standing at 16%, may have to go to 18%. Then in numbers, it is that these particular recommendations may see 650 billion shillings additional amount the Treasury is seeking to net annually in new tax plans in 3 years. Just to give you a clearer understanding as to why we are quoting this, 650 billion shillings is that currently the expected outcome of the proposed measures on VAT, as well as other tax headings such as income tax and excise duty, is to generate an additional 5% of GDP in government revenue, or over 650 billion, which is what I quoted, based on last year's GDP of 13.37 trillion shillings. So yes, they are seeking to do that, though Treasury CS Professor Njuguna Ndung'u says that this has not been decided on yet. So you may want to get more on that particular story from the Daily Nation. Just to give you the kicker of the story, brace yourself for tougher times as President William Ruto's administration plans yet another round of additional taxes targeting farmers, landlords, car owners, small traders, and even schools with swimming pools. The new proposals also seek changes to VAT, which may go up, and a review of excise duty on fuel products, which will send ripples across the economy, hitting hard millions of Kenyans struggling under the current high cost of living. On the top deck of the Daily Nation, fuel shortage looms as dealers cry foul over stabilization debt crisis. Independent oil dealers have warned of shortages at their pumps next week due to the 1.8 billion shillings debt they have accumulated if the government then does not settle the monies owed from the fuel price stabilization program, which was introduced. To look still marking Ruto at 1 today, he starts the first day in his second year. Yesterday was when he was sworn in last year. So Ruto at 1, focus on women and education. That is on page 4 of the Daily Nation, why President has failed to deliver for women and his high scores in education. I believe for women, there was that promise to have 50% cabinet secretaries from either gender. That has not happened. Then we have also not seen amongst other things, we've also not seen the effects of 2/3 gender rule, which the President promised would happen. On the paths at the Daily Nation, there is this story that has been making headlines for a couple of days now. Police to hold 2 women over hairdresser's death. 2 women arrested in connection with the murder of Jen Mwende, a hairdresser based in Lolongo Township, Machakos County, will remain in police custody for 10 days. Also another path, Lokasa Yambongo. yet to be buried 6 months later. Legendary Congolese guitarist is yet to be buried, sparking anxiety among his fans across the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as in Africa, Europe, and the United States of America. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Nation, state opposes lower interest rate, extended grace period for HELB loans. The government is opposed to amendments of the Higher Education Loans Board Act that seek to reduce the interest rate charged on student loans and also extend the grace period before the loans mature. Appearing before the National Assembly's Education Committee yesterday, the PS for Higher Education and Research, Beatrice Inyangala, said such changes would affect HELB's loan collection and threaten its sustainability. That's just few of the very many stories in the Daily Nation. Be sure to grab a copy of the Daily Nation today to get all these details. Later on, I'll be getting a brief comment from some of my panelists on what is happening. They are, besides speaking about security, they are opinion leaders as well. So we shall be getting their comments on this. But let's move on to the Business Daily, known to be doing in-depth reports. And the Business Daily on its headline says, new payslip pain for workers as Treasury plans tax relief acts. That is a special report on page 2 and 4 of the Business Daily. And just to give you a brief, is that 2,400 shillings monthly personal relief among those targeted, and new tax band lined up to cushion low-income earners. Distribution of wage employment by monthly income. Kenyans informal employment will be hit by taxes and deductions. They account for only 16% of those employed. So we shall also be getting to have a comment. The Business Daily going ahead to break down this information by that story done by Kefa Mwirure in the revenue plan. But looking at the top deck again of the Business Daily, many experts acknowledge that relying on foreign languages in education presents complexities. That's a story you may want to go through on the Business Daily. There is also oil-dollar swap deals pile pressure on shilling. All these stories affecting the economy and stories which you may want to follow and understand on the Business Daily. Quickly, to look at the ticker on the Business Daily this morning. Yes, there you go. Centum, latest firm to report zero gender pay gap. Manufacturers sue seeking to block 17.5% export levy. That's a story that perhaps you may want to read. Manufacturers have filed a court case seeking to block the new 17.5% export and investment promotion levy on imported goods such as steel and clinker, saying it will negatively affect their businesses. So how will that court case pan out? But before we know how it will pan out, get the details of that particular case on the Business Daily of page 7. And lastly, the front page of the Business Daily, Kenya outshines her neighbors in PE and venture capital deals. PE here means private equity. Yes, so you may want to check what those stories have. The East African, we looked at this paper yesterday, Who Will Fund EA Resilience. Of course, it's known to be a publication that runs across the week. Taifa Leo ni kubaya. Taifa Leo puts it boldly, ni kubaya wa Kenya kulazimika kukaza mshipi zaidi huku serikali ikipanga kuwasukumia ushuru mpya. We touched on that story when we extensively touched on what is on the front page of the Daily Nation, and this is in accordance to the East Africa's this is according to Treasury's medium-term revenue strategy 2023-2024 to 2026-2027. So ushuru mpya, serikali kuu za kaunti za fyonza wa Kenya upya. Watu ambao wamefyonzwa wameweka hapa picha, hawa wana Taifa Leo, the bodaboda sector, wahubiri, taxi. Tuendelee kuangalia hapa kupitia Taifa Leo, wachuuzi, those are hawkers. Mafuta, that is fuel and VAT, which like we said and read on the Daily Nation, we could see an increase in VAT from 16% to 18% if it is to be harmonized with the rest of the EAC countries. So the Taifa Leo breaks down as well, just as the Daily Nation broke down this particular story. Just to give you a recap of what Taifa Leo says, 18% kwa Kiswahili nikisoma, Wizara ya Fedha itaoanisha ushuru wa VAT na wa nchi za Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki ambazo kwa wakati huu zinatoza 18%. Halafu wahubiri wote sasa watalazimika kulipa shilingi 1,000 kwa siku kuhubiri katika bustani za umma kama vile Uhuru Park na Central Park. Vile vile 2,000 ili jengo la kibiashara liidhinishwe kwa matumizi. Mmiliki atahitaji kulipa shilingi 2,000 zaidi baada ya ada hiyo kupandishwa hadi shilingi 5,000. Kwa hiyo those are the stories on Taifa Leo. Looking at the paths on Taifa Leo, or the top deck first. Omtata, this is according to that Finance Act case which was heard yesterday. Omtata akosoa sheria ya fedha. Seneta ambia koti raia hawakuhusishwa inavyohitajika kikatiba. That story on page 2 of Taifa Leo. Then there is some sports. Southgate amtetea mwanasoka Maguire. Kocha wa timu ya Uingereza atetea mlinzi Maguire dhidi ya mashabiki walomfokea. For people who follow that particular side of football, you know the stories that come with Harry Maguire. Jackso. Msanilo Kasa, we saw this story as well in one of the dailies. Akamo chari kwa miezi 6 waliokufa Libya kwa mafuriko sasa ni 5,000. Quite a sad story again from Libya. That is it with Taifa Leo. We now head to see whether we can get a look at the Standard, and we will do that by using the hard copy just to look at what the Standard has today. And on its headline, MPs dare Raila with fresh visit to State House. I mean, this keeps unfolding and unfolding, and it will be interesting to follow this political development in the country. Remember, the rebel ODM MPs who went to State House and swore to work with President William Ruto, citing chasing development. Just recently, last week, they were expelled from the ODM party. And now, yesterday, as if to add salt to injury, one would say, they visited President William Ruto. And President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga renewed their political rivalry after the head of state hosted renegade ODM MPs for lunch. On a day, the opposition accused National Assembly Speaker of bias for defending the rebels. So that story on the front page of the Standard, as well as Azimio's onslaught against Finance Act. Opposition leader Raila Odinga leads a team of lawyers, civil society and activists to reject the Finance Act 2023 and pleads with judges not to be intimidated as the government responds. That is on the case about the Finance Act. The top deck, how El Nino storm threatens already bruised economy. We know there's that projection that we will be experiencing El Nino in a couple of weeks. So there is a breakdown by the Standard on how that will be affecting our already ruined economy. A story from the US, Republicans target Biden, and also Stars World Cup qualifiers headache. That is for Harambee Stars. There are also a couple of stories. More tax paying as Treasury plans for 2024. The tax story appears to be everywhere. And I'll be getting a brief comment before we get to the stories, to the topic of the day from my panelists about the tax proposals. Mystery of varsity student who died in hostel. And last but not least, world champs lineup for Riyadh road races. So the front page of the Standard. All these stories, you want to read them, make sure to grab a copy of all the local dailies that we are going through today. Last but not least, again, issues to do with taxation. This is the Star. Cost of goods to go up. State plans to raise VAT. So, yes, we broke down that when we looked at the Daily Nation. There is a proposal that may see the harmonization of taxes and that may see Kenya having its VAT move from 16% to 18%. That aside, other taxation measures or other proposed taxation that is in that medium-term plan by the Treasury, even though, according to the story, and you may want to go through it, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u says this has not been decided on yet. But again, a breakdown shows that if the country is to harmonize VAT with other East African community countries, then we are definitely moving from 16% to 18% of VAT. And this is it on the top deck of the Star. The big strategy, Ruto wants radical UDA changes, plans grassroots party, polls countrywide. This follows that visit by the president to the UDA headquarters early in the week. That is 2 days ago on Tuesday. He stayed late into the night. And my panelists are here. Let me start by getting a quick comment from them on why exactly, especially on that top story on taxes, just to tell you who this lady and gentlemen are this morning, and will be joining us for our conversation later on Ruto's scorecard, security and human rights. But because we're about to get their comment on the top stories, Charles Owino, former police spokesperson, joining us virtually. Believe he should be on board by now. We also have Peter Kiama, Executive Director, Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Morning.
You're here on time.
Yeah, thank you.
We also have Julie Wanjira. Julie is the co-founder, Mathare Social Justice Center. Julie, karibu sana to NTV.
Asante sana.
Ready for the conversation?
I am ready.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Michael Ndonye. Ndonye is a political communication expert, also a lecturer of journalism and mass communication at Kabarak University. Ndonye, welcome to NTV.
Thank you very much.
We are about to have the in a few we'll be getting to our main topic, but just to get a quick opinion. You are opinion leaders despite being in your various sectors on what you're seeing on the front pages of almost all the dailies. I'll start with you, Kiama. There is a proposal. It is a proposal. One of the things that have been quoted there is and the Daily Nation quotes it very well, says more pain. As Treasury proposes new higher taxes, I'll tell you where that is coming from. That is in the Treasury's medium-term revenue strategy, 2023 to 2024, 2026 to 2027. What is your take? 1 year into office of the president, a battered economy according to some quarters of the population, a government that says we have done well and we are on course to delivery. Then in that course towards delivery, there is this that is being reported on our local dailies.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ibrahim Karanja, for inviting me to this show. The headlines actually reflect, the experience of Kenyans across the 47 counties. The headline about more pain, especially more pain at on the payslip. If you start there, more pain at the shopping malls, more pain at the kiosks. That's the general experience of Kenyans. And I think the most popular phrase nowadays in this country is that you cannot tax yourself to prosperity. There has to be a balance between development and taxation. There has to be a limit to which you can tax your citizens to be able to meet your needs. So I think it has come to a point in this country where proposals are being made and being taken through what you would call manufactured public participation, and that's the tragedy of our governance system now.
What do you mean manufactured public participation?
I say manufactured because it's not true or real public participation. Public participation is a key provision of our constitution in any decision that government wants to make. The people have to be involved, and there's a threshold within which that is measured. Number one, you look at the number of submissions and the substance of the submissions for any proposed new law or any new policy, and you look at what people have said. We have seen in the current Finance Act, most of the submissions were actually against the measures the government was proposing. But we ended up with the government saying, to hell with public participation, we'll proceed, whether you like it or not. And that's where the pain starts, in that we are not being listened to as citizens by our government. The government is saying, we'll do what we want to do, regardless of what the public opinion is. So that for me is a big challenge. That is a big challenge.
And come to you, Ndonye. Kiama says what the papers are reporting is the actual fact that there is more pain. But then again, this comes at a time when the government says, look, in fact, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi spoke to the Daily Nation yesterday, and he says, take these short-term pains because the long-term gain will be beneficial. What is your take?
Okay, thank you, Ibrahim, for having me first in the show. And I want to agree with Kiama. First of all, this is the feeling of every other Kenyan, and that is what the Daily Nation is saying, more pain. But at the same time, we need to also, I also want to echo what he has said about the government being careful in balancing taxation and development. The issue of taxation is not something to be taken out of law, because it is something that is supposed to be taken through a procedure. But what we see with the current government, in most cases, they don't follow the procedures. And of course, there is nothing we can do because they have power. They were sworn into power. We gave them the power to do what they can within their mandate in order to deliver development for this country. And there are consequences. That's what I want to add to them. A lot of Pudis have said this. There are consequences of overtaxation. And one of the consequences of overtaxation, actually, we are likely to see more tax evasion. I don't know how they are going to do that. The kind of structures they have put in place to do that. And so overtaxation is going to hurt this nation unless they check it from the beginning. If they are aiming that they are going to overtax us now, and then in future we are going to they are going to relieve us. How? Because we have no history of a government that begins a taxation and then later in life withdraws the taxation.
They may not withdraw the taxation, but services may get to a point where it's all that we've been yearning for as a country. Better health services, better education sector. Don't you think then that they make a point when they say that that is the direction we're heading?
Yeah, sure. The history of this country, Ibrahim, has been like this since the time I was able to read the news on taxation. Taxation has been going up. Every other time the government comes, the regime says we are going to make things better. We are taxing you because we are going to make things better. But at the end of it, what is the gain of the government if you are having, especially those people who are working, those who have pay slips? If they are going to have, I looked at some time ago, I was trying to analyze actually the amount of taxation that goes out of the person who is working. Actually, around 4 months each year, 4 full months of a working person goes to taxation to the government. So that means that a working person remains with only 8 months. And then those 8 months are also subjected to more taxation.
Sorry, what is this information based on? 4 months of a person's working is, heads to taxation.
You base it on what we call the pay. The pay, if you take, for example, the 30%, now it has been increased to 35%. If you take that 30%, actually, is 30% of your monthly pay, which is your month is actually 30 days or 20 days, depending on the way you are looking at it. And from that 35% or 30%, everything you buy is 16% subjected to 16% VAT. And that one you don't have to negotiate. And then there are other levies. So if you count that, you even realize we are paying over 50% tax from what we earn. And that is going to hurt us in terms of self-development of our people. So how are they going to survive? Then it means tax evasion, and also the people finding other ways of developing themselves. And that is where now other illicit behaviors come in. The issues of corruption, the issues of bribery, and all that kind of a thing.
I hear you. And Julie, they have commented on what the situation is, perhaps from where you sit, and the new proposals that we are seeing on all the local dailies. This, just before you comment, I'll tell you, this Treasury, according to that story by Peter Mboro on page 7 of the Daily Nation, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndongo said yesterday that the government's plan was actually to reduce taxes below the current level and that the ministry had not yet decided on a rate. To quote him verbatim, he said, actually, we are going to rationalize taxes to below the level they are now. Higher taxes rates do not bring in more revenue. they bring in less revenue and create an incentive to evade taxes. That is what Ndonye is saying. What is your feel?
My feel is that this is the very wrong time to try and add taxes to Kenya, picking up from where Kiama left, that we cannot tax a nation into prosperity. Maybe the government should look into industrializing. Also, I don't think Kenyans have a problem paying tax to a government that actually delivers services to us. But look at our education sector, look at the health sector, look at the status of unemployment in the youth. There's really no incentive even to pay the current taxes that we're paying, let alone add even more taxes. Yeah.
Don't you think it's a bit unfair to say it's not right to pay, or it's not okay to pay taxes to a government that doesn't deliver, yet you have a government that is just 1 year in office? It has 3.5 other years, or about 4 years, to us getting to a point of saying, look, this government did not deliver, let's send them home. Don't you think then we need to give them benefit of doubt?
I'm coming from a place where the government was saying, this is a government of the people. This is a government of Mama Mboga. This is a government of Sisi watu wa hapa chini. But the moment they got into office, it's higher taxes, it's prices of goods going high. It's just reversing all the promises that they made. And today, 1 year later in office, we are discussing more pain to the people and more taxes. So the trajectory that the government has been going is really the wrong trajectory on practically all fronts. Human rights, education, healthcare. It's really worrying.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. And I don't know if we, Jackso, if we already have Charles Owino on board. It would be interesting to get. All right, we will get Charles Owino after the break and on the comments on this. Then immediately after he comments on this, we get straight into our topic of conversation. Our topic today, allow me to show you that. Our topic is Ruto's scorecard, security and human rights. Where are we 1 year into William Ruto's presidency? Are we better placed in security-wise and in terms of human rights and respect to the rule of law, or have we deteriorated further from where the previous government left us? My name is Ibrahim Karanja. Our panelists already in studio.